a limited section, of course, will see it as something that India has done to disturb Bangladesh. But larger reality in Bangladesh and the world around us will also notice how India stands by.
Talk about the implication as far as vindictive politics is concerned, revenge politics, and whether at all there is going to be any space in Bangladesh as far as dissent and protest is concerned. If this is going to be the verdict for it, also bounce back, can it recover from this setback? Is there going to be any ray of hope or light in the near future for Awami League to regroup and re-establish itself?
I think that's true that any political party around the world, if they see their most important, most popular leader being given this kind of treatment, that will definitely catapult them into coming together, even if they had little differences, given that they have been in a difficult situation for more than a year now. So yes, I think Awami League cadres will definitely come together after this verdict, which has several issues. The kind of speed of the trial, the fact that the police chief is just given 5-year term, though the kind of they were uh, uh, the prosecutors had asked for death sentence for all three: the home minister, police chief, and the prime minister. So this sudden and a huge contrast in police chief being spared with just 5 years of jail term, and both home minister and prime minister being pronounced death sentence, again shows a little sort of political motive in this exercise in that sense. And keeping Awami League banned and denying them any participation in elections. So there is a certain amount of political motives that are clear in the whole exercise as to how Sheikh Hasina has been dealt with right from July of last year. And the fact that she is in India makes India really spoiled in this whole exercise
Exactly.
that we
Mr.
see.
Professor Singh, India can't really disassociate themselves from what is happening in Bangladesh. Though they may not have any direct involvement, they are not any stakeholders as far as Bangladesh unrest and politics is concerned. But how does it impact India's relation with Bangladesh going forward?
I think in the relations are already several challenges, particularly the way the interim government has sought to demolish the historical narrative as to how Bangladesh was created, within which, of course, the India's linkage also was significant. But the role of Awami League and their leaders, this whole thing is being, statues were demolished, the houses are being destroyed. That kind of exercise at home and this very rapid way of building close connections with Pakistan from the country from which Bangladesh had sought independence at some stage, and also engaging Chinese, for example, they also create added challenges for India in the region in that sense. But my assumption, as I keep repeating, is I assume that once the election and any popular government comes in place, they will have to think long term. They'll have to think of development of their people would have expectations of safety, security, prosperity from that election. Current government has no mandate to take substantive decisions, even when they. So once the popular government comes in place, I think they will realize that the partnership with India is very significant. And we have to just wait till February, unless this verdict leads to more chaos. And we are hearing saying that if this disruption continues, the league will ensure that elections are not held in February. And in that worst case scenario, then that uncertainty and anxiety in Bangladesh will impact on India-Bangladesh relations.
Professor, how Sheikh Hasina was seen as someone who brought in economic development in Bangladesh, but now the situation that is brewing in Bangladesh, how does the economic development and the investment climate of Bangladesh gets impacted with verdicts like these, especially for someone who was seen as a beacon of hope for bringing about development in Bangladesh?
So there is no doubt about there is a clear economic deceleration, rise in unemployment, price rise, and so on. And the investor confidence was already shaken for the whole last more than a year now. And a verdict like this, you can anticipate further chaos on the ground, further disruption of everything in Bangladesh. So I assume that economic deceleration and the lack of confidence in investing in Bangladesh, even their close friends like China, they have been also reluctant in making any promises of investments in Bangladesh during the period of nations want to ensure that there is a political ensured backment of this nature with the whole kind of holes inside it is confidence of investors or any partners. So this is going to further create difficulties for common people on the people who actually, for whatever reason, were made to come to the streets and create that chaos of July 2024, which made the Sheikh Hasina exit the country at
What does it talk about the implication as far as vindictive politics is concerned, revenge politics, and whether at all there is going to be any space in Bangladesh as far as dissent, unrest, and protest is concerned? If this is going to be the verdict for it, also, can Awami League bounce back? Can it recover from this setback? Is there going to be any ray of hope or light in the near future for Awami League to regroup and re-establish itself?
I think that's true that any political party around the world, if they see their most important, most popular leader being given this kind of treatment, that will definitely catapult them into coming together, even if they had little differences, given that they have been in a difficult situation for more than a year now. League cadres will definitely come together after this verdict, which has several issues. The kind of speed of the trial, the fact that the police chief is just given 5-year term, though the kind of they were uh, uh, the prosecutors had asked for death sentence for all three, the home minister, police chief, and the prime minister. So this sudden and a huge contrast in police chief being spared with just 5 years of jail term, and both home minister and prime minister being pronounced death sentence, again shows a little sort of political motive in this exercise in that sense. And keeping Awami League banned and denying them any participation in elections. So there is a certain amount of political motives that are clearly visible in this whole exercise as to how Sheikh Hasina has been dealt with right from July of last year. And the fact that she is in India makes India really also embroiled in this whole exercise
Exactly.
that we see.
Professor Singh, India can't really disassociate themselves from what is happening in Bangladesh. Though they may not have any direct involvement, they are not any stakeholders as far as Bangladesh unrest and politics is concerned. But how does it impact India's relation with Bangladesh going forward?
I think in the temporary relations are already having several challenges, particularly the way the interim government has sought to demolish the historical narrative as to how Bangladesh was created, within which, of course, the India's linkage also was very, very significant. But the role of Awami League and their leaders, this whole thing is being, statues were demolished, the houses are being destroyed. That kind of exercise at home and this very rapid way of building close connections with Pakistan from the country from which Bangladesh had sought independence at some stage, and also engaging Chinese, for example, they also create added challenges for India in the region in that sense. But my assumption, as I keep repeating, is I assume that once the elections are held and any popular government comes in place, they will have to think long term. They'll have to think of development of their people. People would have expectations of safety, security, prosperity from that elected government. The current government has no mandate to take substantive decisions, even when they have been doing all these things. So once the popular government comes in place, I think they will realize that the partnership with India is very significant. And we have to just wait till February, unless this verdict leads to more chaos. And we are hearing former Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina's son saying that if this disruption continues, then maybe Awami League will ensure that elections are not held in February. And in that worst case scenario, if they get further postponed, then that uncertainty and anxiety in Bangladesh will have its impact on India-Bangladesh relations.
Professor Singh, you did mention that how Sheikh Hasina was seen as someone who brought in economic development in Bangladesh, but now the situation that is brewing in Bangladesh, how does the economic development and the investment climate of Bangladesh gets impacted with verdicts like these, especially for someone who was seen as a beacon of hope for bringing about development in Bangladesh?
So there is no doubt about it. Already there is a clear economic deceleration, rise in unemployment, price rise, and so on. And the investor confidence was already shaken for the whole last more than a year now. And a verdict like this, you can anticipate further chaos on the ground, further disruption of everything in Bangladesh. So I assume that economic deceleration and the lack of confidence in investing in Bangladesh will continue. Even their close friends like China, they have been also reluctant in making any major promises of investments in Bangladesh during the period of Chief Advisor Dr. Yunus. I think most nations want to ensure that there is a political stability first ensured back in Bangladesh, and a judgment of this nature with the whole kind of holes inside it is not going to create that confidence of investors or any partners for Bangladesh. So this is going to further create economic difficulties for common people on the ground, people who actually, for whatever reason, were made to come to the streets and create that chaos of July 2024, which made the Sheikh Hasina exit the country at
What does it talk about the implication as far as vindictive politics is concerned, revenge politics, and whether at all there is going to be any space in Bangladesh as far as dissent, unrest, and protest is concerned? If this is going to be the verdict for it, also, can Awami League bounce back? Can it recover from this setback? Is there going to be any ray of hope or light in the near future for Awami League to regroup and re-establish itself?
I think that's true that any political party around the world, if they see their most important, most popular leader being given this kind of treatment, that will definitely catapult them into coming together, even if they had little differences, given that they have been in a difficult situation for more than a year now. So yes, I think Awami League cadres will definitely come together after this verdict, which has several issues. The kind of speed of the trial, the fact that the police chief is just given 5-year term, though the kind of they were uh, uh, the prosecutors.
Prime target is Sheikh Hasina. But what I want to say right now, that this verdict is illegal, court is illegal, verdict is illegal. People of Bangladesh is not ready to accept this, so the verdict. So they want to ban, they already banned the activities of Awami League. They want to have the election without excluding Awami League. But this cannot continue. This will not continue. History of Bangladesh repeats itself. Say, either Eshad or Jia or Yahya, whoever tried to oust Awami League from political race, they were ousted immediately. So Khaleda Zia also tried to have an election without Awami League, but within 45 days of the election, Khaleda Zia had to resign. So Yunus must be ousted, and he's the main conspirator. He's the main source of international conspiracy. So people will not accept him to more time. So he must be ousted, and the Jamati.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, but kindly stay with us, Mr. Pankaj Nath and Professor Swaran Singh. I request you to kindly stay with us because we are going to be keeping a continued coverage as far as all the developments taking place in Bangladesh. We are getting you minute by minute updates on all the breaking news. Kindly stay with us. We are slipping into a short break right now. Lots more lined up. Stay tuned.
25 लाख का हॉस्पिटल बिल है। इतने पैसे कहाँ से आएंगे?
पैसों की चिंता आप मत कीजिए पापा।
मैम, सर का हेल्थ इंश्योरेंस क्लेम अप्रूव हो गया है।
आप
पॉलिसी बाजार
हेल्थ इंश्योरेंस क्लेम में हमेशा आपके साथ। पॉलिसी बाजार 1 करोड़ का हेल्थ इंश्योरेंस सिर्फ 550 रुपए महीने से शुरू।
पढ़ता है, खेलता है, झूलता उछलता है, दौड़ता कभी कभी दौड़ कराता है, आगे आगे बढ़ता है इंडिया, अमूल दूध पीता है इंडिया।
भाई साहब, आपने भारत कनेक्ट का नाम सुना है?
एक और सोशल मीडिया ऐप।
सोशल मीडिया ऐप नहीं, वो 700 से ज्यादा ऐप्स पे बिल पेमेंट्स पॉसिबल बनाते हैं।
बढ़िया है।
आप हमें जानते नहीं पर मानते जरूर हैं। हम हैं भारत कनेक्ट।
ये बेस्ट है सर।
हमेशा वाला क्यों नहीं?
मिश्रा जी, आपके लिए फूलों की बरसात, बिरला ओपस एश्योरेंस देने के लिए।
मतलब प्रोडक्ट वारंटी?
ये एक्स्ट्रा है। 1 साल में पेंट को कुछ भी हुआ तो पेंटिंग वापस करके देंगे।
वापस करके देंगे?
वो भी फ्री। पेंटिंग में पहली बार बिरला ओपस एश्योरेंस। रजिस्टर करो birlaopus.com पर।
अपनी सुपर पावर यूज करने का टाइम आ गया है।
आप टेंशन मत लीजिए। IIFL फाइनेंस से झटपट गोल्ड लोन लीजिए और बिजनेस आगे बढ़ाइए।
लाइफ जब भी आगे बढ़ने का मौका दे, अपनी सुपर पावर, अपना गोल्ड यूज करिए और IIFL फाइनेंस से गोल्ड लोन लीजिए। IIFL फाइनेंस करता है सीधी बात।
That goat is long dead, but Cyrus bhai are still alive. Game cho. This is God's office calling. You're not a VIP, so God won't speak directly, but here's the deal. You have been granted a second chance with a brand new news show.
Thank you very much. Just one thing. You said 2 more lives. So I'll first be a newsman who wins awards, and second I'll be
Cockroach.
better make this show last. No hurry to, be a cockroach. Let's stay here for a little while. Don't want to be a cockroach. Apparently, they have lots of issues, like being stamped upon. This is the same thing as a newsman. I mean, they're not that different.
Light, camera, and action. Kick back, relax, grab your favorite snack because News 9 is here with your weekend dose of entertainment. It's time to take a deeper dive into the buzzworthy happenings of the entertainment world. From celebrity gossips to exclusive conversations, from nostalgic moments to News 9's pick of the week, don't worry, we've got you covered here. And I hope you've grabbed your popcorn by now because News 9's page 3 is here to serve you everything that we call entertainment. So do stay tuned every Saturday and Sunday, 2:30 p.m.
Being a chef, it's my priority to deliver taste in a plate with good presentation, unique innovation. You need to explore, you need to experiment.
You observe the people, make them happy, make them feel happy, and in the end you are smiling. That's the most important thing.
This is India's #1 news network, and you're watching News 9. English news as it should be.
Good afternoon, hello and welcome. Thank you for tuning in. You're watching News 9 and I'm Samia Kapoor. We will be getting you all the top stories of the day, but first up, the headline this hour. Bangladesh Kangaroo Court holds a Sheikh Hasina guilty, hands a death sentence to ousted Prime Minister. Bangladesh is on the edge. Hasina sentenced to death. Extremists march with bulldozers towards Hasina's residence. Major revelation in the Delhi terror attack case. Omar may have been a shoe bomber as investigators recover metallic substance inside his shoe. Chief of Army Staff General Upendra Dwivedi warns Pakistan, says India will teach its neighbour how to behave. He further adds, Operation Sindoor was just a trailer. The movie is yet to come. Delhi court grants 10 days custody of Amir Rashid Ali to NIA in the Delhi Red Fort car blast case. India-US LPG deal marks a major step in strategic energy ties as India signs historic LPG agreement with the US. Delhi NCR air quality remains severe as pollution chokes city. Commission for Air Quality Management keeps the Stage 3 GRAP measures in force amid dense haze. We begin the bulletin with the biggest story of the day, where Bangladesh court has ordered death against ex-PM Sheikh Hasina. Bangladesh court convicted Hasina of crimes against humanity and crackdown on student protesters. That is the big breaking news that we are beginning the bulletin with. Death sentence has been given to Sheikh Hasina on all 5 counts. Sheikh Hasina has responded to court's verdict, calling it politically motivated and biased. She said, and I quote, that millions of Bangladeshis toiling under Yunus regime will not be fooled by this attempt to shortchange them of their democratic rights. Well, that is the big breaking news that we're getting you at this point in time. In a strong worded statement, Sheikh Hasina has issued her first response to the death sentence that has been awarded by the Kangaroo court. She said that she was not given a fair chance to defend herself in the court and the verdict was biased and politically motivated. She also went on to say that the verdict pronounced is against me, made by a rigged tribunal established and presided over by an unelected government with no democratic mandate. Bangladesh former Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina also went on to say that she is not afraid to face any accusers in a proper tribunal where evidence can be weighed, tested fairly. She did go on to say that this is an attempt to nullify Awami League, but she has implicit faith in the people of Bangladesh that they are going to give a befitting reply to the Yunus government, and she and her supporters in Awami League and others do not accept the tribunal's pronouncement of a death sentence that has been awarded to the former Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina. Well, that is the big breaking news that we're bringing to our viewers at this time. And to get more perspective on the story, I'm joined by Mr. Subir Bhaumik, who's author and senior journalist. Well, Mr. Bhaumik, thank you for taking out time and joining me here at News 9. At the very outset, Mr. Bhaumik, how do you look at this tribunal pronouncing a death sentence for the former Prime Minister of Bangladesh, Ms. Sheikh Hasina? She issues a statement saying that this tribunal is rigged and has been established by an unelected government. The entire verdict is biased and politically motivated. How do you look at what is right now panning out in Bangladesh?
Well, it's not just Sheikh Hasina, but everybody who understands law and who understands Bangladesh will actually say that this is a verdict pronounced by a kangaroo court, which has been put into action by an unelected government. It is a fact of life that Muhammad Yunus has no elected mandate. He was never elected. He was brought into power by the army, when Sheikh Hasina's government fell apart. And, the idea was that he will preside over an election and hand over power to an elected government. Now, under some pretext or the other, he has managed to stay on for more than 1 year now. And maybe, his cronies, his flunkies are already saying that Yunus should stay on for 5 years. Somebody said 50 years. Now, he's already 85. If he stays on for 50 years, anyway. So that is the intent. This court, the chief prosecutor was the defense counsel of Jamaat-e-Islami when the Crimes Tribunal was first set up in 2010. And he was defending the Jamaat leaders who were accused of crimes against humanity during the 1971 Liberation War. Now, this is an international crimes tribunal, war crimes tribunal, they're trying war crimes. And in 1971, we all know what Pakistan Army did, and we all know what Jamaat-e-Islami did. They sided with the Pakistan Army. They were involved in horrible atrocities against Bengalis, especially the women. All those people were tried and sentenced. Some were hanged, some were given life sentence. The point I'm trying to make here is the man who defended those Jamaat leaders at that point of time, today, he is the chief prosecutor, Mr. Tajul. And therefore, most interestingly, in absentia, trials are not uncommon in Bangladesh. But here, look at the court, this tribunal. They gave a defense counsel for Sheikh Hasina. Now, when the charges against him were constituted, 5 weeks ago, this people said, everybody was connected with the process, said that Hasina's defense counsel appointed by this government, this court, should have asked for more time because it was such an exhaustive document of charge that this lawyer did not have the resources and otherwise to actually do adequate research to mount a proper defense. And therefore, the fact that he didn't ask for enough time, he went with the time given by the court, proves that this defense counsel was more aligned to the prosecution than committed to defend somebody is supposed to defend, which is Sheikh Hasina and her home minister in the previous government, Asaduzzaman Khan Kamal. So less said about this judgment, the better. It's a kangaroo court, and there are many legal points that can be brought up. But most importantly, we should see what this is going to lead to. Let me make it clear.
Exactly, Mr. Bhaumik. We do understand the fact, and we are in complete agreement that this is a kangaroo court. This verdict is rigged. But Mr. Bhaumik, what should be the next move now? If Sheikh Hasina is saying that she has faith in the people of Bangladesh, are we looking at another unrest? Are we looking at Awami League regrouping themselves and overcoming this setback? They're organizing themselves because as of now, they're all in hiding. They are operating only through social media. This verdict can be challenged in the Supreme Court of Bangladesh in the next 30 days. Should that move be made immediately?
I don't think challenging this verdict in the Supreme Court will bring any immediate result, because we have seen how the judiciary in Bangladesh is now functioning. Hundreds of cases, trumped up charges have been filed against people who are remotely connected with Awami League just for posting Facebook, material, just for going into a procession. I know of any amount of cases I can give you. I have many sisters in Bangladesh, some of them with the Awami League. Just for, joining one or two procession, they have been put in jail and their bail petition is not heard. 5 times in 1 month, a lawyer has filed bail petition. I can give you a specific case of Aisha Jaman. She's from Mohila League, Kuwilla, and any amount of, I can give you dozens of these. So I don't think there is any scope for legal redress as far as Sheikh Hasina is concerned, even if she goes to the Supreme Court. I have grave doubts about the way the Supreme Court. What will now happen, I can tell you, Bangladesh is headed for some kind of a civil war because Awami League now has its back to the wall. What is the Awami League? Awami League is not a revolutionary party. Okay, they fought elections. They fought election in Pakistan. Pakistan refused to accept the verdict of 1970 election and unleashed a genocide on the Bengali people that forced the Awami League to take up weapons and fight back. And that led to the independence of Bangladesh. So Awami League, now again Yunus is making the same mistake. Bengalis, Sheikh Mujibur Rahman had said in his famous lecture, "Amader dabaye rakhte parbo na." We are one race which cannot be suppressed. Bengalis, aap daba nahi sakte hain. Therefore, now there will be a fight back, a blowback. Awami League will hit the street, and the fundamentalists who are already on the streets, because today also they have gone and attacked 32 Dhanmondi, which is the ancestral house of Sheikh Hasina.
Mr. Bhawmik, hold that thought. I will have to interject over here. I'll come back to you for you to complete the point that you were making over here. But there are several reactions that are coming in from Bangladesh. Let's take a look.
Judgment, what is your opinion?
The main part comes now after the judgment. So the people who are not in the country, they should be bring as soon as possible to this country, and they should be face trial. And the fascist Hasina and the fascist former Home Minister should be bring to this country as soon as possible, and their judgment need to be executed.
Needs to be executed is what one of those young students, the youth from Bangladesh has to say. Mr. Bhawmik, you were trying to make a point over there. You were mentioning and quoting Mujibur Rahman. Please go ahead and complete the point that you were making.
No. See, this is the biggest problem. People pass off as students. These guys are Jamaati Islami student cadre. I know this chap. He's from Islamic Chhatra Shibir. If you think that Hasina was brought down by a student movement, it is wrong. There is no autonomous student politics either in Bangladesh or in West Bengal. Everybody is politically connected. If you think that there is an autonomous student movement in Bangladesh, you're wrong. Most of these people are belonging to Islamic Chhatra Shibir, Hizbut Tahrir, and all these other very radicalized, student and youth groups. And some of them actually are from the extreme Islamist groups. Many of them. That is why you will find that when Yunus came to power, he went ahead and released all those top Islamist radical leaders like Joshimuddin Rahmani. They were all booked for serious crimes, murders, and they were released. They were released so that they can, Bangladesh street power is very important. So now, all these people, like this gentleman who spoke now, the youngster, these are people who will take to the streets to fight for Mr. Yunus. And, they have clearly an agenda against the Awami League. But Awami League will also take to the streets. Now, at the moment, the police is not allowing the Awami League people anywhere. Look at this. But these people are allowed all over the place, around the court, around everywhere. So that this is very careful media management by Mr. Yunus's press secretary Shafiqul. That all these Islamist groups, and they
Hershey's cookies and cream. One's grungy, the other smooth. Together, a unique dream team. Hershey's cookies and cream, the iconic duo.
Deepika. Yes? Deepika, what's one role you'd love to play? A customer at Nykaa's Pink Friday sale that has up to 60% off.
What's your current obsession?
Free gifts with every Nykaa order? Ma'am, when's your next film coming out? Sorry, can we pick this up later, please? Focus only on shopping at Nykaa Pink Friday sale.
Army League to fight back. And in these circumstances, India will also have a role to play, because we clearly know who our friends are.
That's exactly my next question to you, Mr. Bhaumik. The fact that Sheikh Hasina decided to come to India, of course, it's not a political asylum for her per se officially, but it's because India is standing by those friends and allies that it has held close over the years. How is this verdict going to impact India's relationship with Bangladesh, even though India is not directly involved with anything to do with Bangladesh and is not a stakeholder, but can it disassociate itself entirely from what is happening in Bangladesh, or can we also see a ripple effect of what is happening in Bangladesh, at least in the adjoining areas in India?
So I will tell you something. India is caught between the rock and the hard place. It's a choice. Dharam Sankat hai jisko kehte hain. Kaisa hai? Why? If they have sheltered Sheikh Hasina, and obviously from anticipated persecution, and that fear has now come to life. It has happened. What was people were anticipating has happened. Now if Sheikh Hasina is sent back, India will be seen as an untrustworthy ally or a friend. That if you can send back such a trustworthy ally, Sheikh Hasina has been Sheikh Hasina and Awami League are actually India's only friend in Bangladesh. There is no other major political party. There are pro-liberation elements all over the country, and they are pro-Indian. But most of the rest, especially Mr. Yunus, he has already made his intent clear. Look at the very Pakistan which unleashed a genocide to crush the liberation movement. Today, Yunus is hobnobbing with Pakistan. Look at the number of visits paid by senior Pakistani military officials. As we speak, Pakistan Navy people, an ISI delegation of 8 people, they are in Bangladesh. So Pakistan is trying to turn Bangladesh into the second front of Islamic terror to target India. Already Pakistani Army Chief General Asim Munir has said, next time we hit India, we'll hit India from the east. East mein unka kya hai? What have they got in the east? So obviously he's looking at Bangladesh, which can be turned into a base for action, of the kind we have already seen in Kashmir and other parts. This will happen in the east. So for India, this is a serious security issue, and India has no choice. So India cannot send back Sheikh Hasina, for different reasons, as I've mentioned. If it does not send back Sheikh Hasina, well, the powers in Dhaka, especially Yunus and all these other fundamentalists, they will say India is keeping Sheikh Hasina convicted criminal and all that. So, and in future, it is not only Bangladesh, but also Pakistan will use this. India does not send back a convicted criminal. So how can you ask for, Pakistan to send back, and certainly Bangladesh, to send back anybody who India wants? It is during Sheikh Hasina's tenure that some of the alpha leaders like Anup Chetia were sent back to stand trial in India. So Bangladesh will now clearly deny that. Maybe Bangladesh will start harboring some of those. All the indications are there. Pakistan is coming back and all. That some of these people like, alpha leaders, all these other, insurgent leaders in Northeast India, they used to have bases before Sheikh Hasina came to power. They had bases in Bangladesh. Those bases will come back. So for India, we have no choice. Here I will tell you something. In 1970s and 80s, when Bangladesh started the Pakistani process of sheltering Northeast Indian insurgents in Bangladesh, India went and backed, the Chakma rebels in Chittagong hill tracts. So if that happens again now, India may not have any choice. But if, already these Jamaati Islami people who are closest to Mr. Yunus,
very interesting points you're making over there, Mr. Bhaumik. You are talking about the fact that how Pakistan is going to be using this fertile time for Pakistan to try and use Bangladesh as a base to propagate terror, especially towards India. India is on a tenterhook right now. Of course, there is a leadership vacuum in Bangladesh right now who can put the record straight and get its house together. Given the circumstances then, Mr. Bhaumik, what should be India's response? It has to be a very carefully tread response because it is a neighbor. Sheikh Hasina has decided to ask help from India, and in the long term, India cannot deny the fact that it is going to have relations and ties with Bangladesh. But at this juncture, Mr. Bhaumik, what should be India's response?
Well, India in the immediate future will have to ensure, talk hard to Mr. Yunus and his government, and his national security advisor is coming to Delhi on the 19th. Something very clearly, a clear point has to be made from and I'm sure our NSA Ajit Doval, who is a tough man, and I know him personally, I know he does not mince words. Tough talking has to be done that if you guys in Bangladesh, you do, you go for a honeymoon with Pakistan, we don't have a problem. But if you harbor Pakistani terrorists, if you harbor Pakistan ISI people in your country and they use it as a launch pad for creating problems in the east and northeast of India, then we'll have to hit back. How do you hit back? We obviously have three choices. One is the conventional choice, which we have seen in Operation Sindhu. I wrote a famous, a book in 1996, it was an Oxford thesis, that in this subcontinent, nation states have reciprocally backed insurgencies against each other. So if the Pakistanis created problem in Kashmir, in 47 and 65, what did we do in 71? I may as a Bengali have a sentiment for a Bengali struggle there, but Indira Gandhi did not go into Bangladesh and back the Bangladesh freedom struggle for Bengali sentiments. She did it to teach Pakistan a lesson.
Absolutely.
And to break up. So here, India clearly has an option that if you finger India, if you allow your area to be used for activities detrimental to the security of India, we have an option. We have a conventional option. We have a non-conventional option, which is what? Which is if you allow your territory to be used by Lashkar-e-Taiba and Jaish-e-Mohammed and these big jihadi groups. Already Jamaat-e-Islami has said that 5 million Bangladeshis will join the jihad against India. 5 million to Jamaat-e-Islami never got more than 8% of the popular vote in Bangladesh. Forget about the figures. But if Jamaat-e-Islami people join all these Pakistani groups.
Point taken over there, Mr. Bhaumik. I'm also joined by Ambassador Deepak Vora, who's been a former Indian diplomat. Good afternoon, Mr. Vora. Thank you for taking our time and joining me here at News 9. I was having a riveting conversation with our guest Subir Bhaumik, who had detailed it out that how it's a sensitive space for India to tread on, especially given the circumstances in Bangladesh right now. Sheikh Hasina has been awarded a death sentence by the tribunal court, a court that is rigged, a court that has been put together by an unelected government. And of course, there are forces in Pakistan, China, who are going to be using this as a fertile plain to try and, collude against India in that sense. Given the circumstances, Ambassador Vora, what should be India's response? Because we have to keep in mind the long-standing ties that India has shared with Bangladesh over the years.
Well, thank you very much. Always a pleasure to be on your amazing channel, to listen to you. You are outstanding. I was listening to Mr. Bhaumik also. His knowledge is much greater than mine. He's outstanding. He's brilliant. Now, as far as I see it, 4 things are going to happen, ma'am, with the verdict, the death verdict that has been passed on former Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina. The first is that this tribunal, whatever it is called, International Criminal Tribunal, that buffoon Mohammed Useless Khan thinks that by giving it an international name, people will be fooled into believing that the United Nations or some other agency has sanctioned this tribunal, which is all rubbish. The second thing I see, that Sheikh Hasina, she's not going to be hanged. She's going to fight for her political resurrection. Whereas Mohammed Useless Khan, this is the third thing, he is going to fight for his survival. He's already close to 90 years old, and we don't know what happens after the elections that are scheduled in February or or March of next year, which he doesn't want to hold. And finally, for the people of Bangladesh, ma'am, I have many friends. I've gone there many times. I was there not too long ago. They will suffer. There's a proverb that when the elephants fight, it's the grass that suffers. Violence has already erupted. In the next 2 or 3 days, you'll see much more violence because the Awami League chaps, according to my friends in Bangladesh, have spent this time rearming, repositioning themselves, regrouping, and they will hit because Sheikh Hasina stands tall as their leader. There's no one to challenge. Now, what should India do? No question about it, ma'am, that this buffoon has been provoking us. We have so far adopted a very mature attitude towards Bangladesh that, look, behave yourselves, don't try and provoke us too much. Yes, we know that you want to, you married China but hopped into bed with the Americans, and so the Chinese got very upset. They didn't give you any money. Mohammed Eustace Khan had gone there not too long ago to ask for money. Chinese won't give them anything. Chinese are already overextended on that dying China-Pakistan economic corridor, so they don't want to get involved. And ma'am, please remember that the Chinese would not like their own people to be killed. They don't send chaps who are willing to die, blow themselves up. They detest Islam. And let's be very clear about it. All the Uyghur fellows who have been locked up, etc., etc. As far as the Pakistanis are concerned, if they think that with all this Jamaat thing, they have suddenly won over Bangladesh, no. The people who are above 50 or 60 or 70 and their children who've heard stories, they don't trust the Pakistanis at all, especially the Punjabi Musliman who forms the backbone of the Pakistan army. They don't want a repeat of what happened at that time. This is what my friends tell me. Mr. Bhawmik knows better. Finally, what do I see happening? Also, by the way, I might mention this, that next year the Ganga Waters Treaty is due for renewal. We can hit that, ma'am. If we decide that we will not renew it and that's within our rights, then I'm not being melodramatic. Bangladesh will die of thirst. They won't have any water. The agriculture will fade, whatever is left of it, there'll be no water. It'll be tough, the fisheries, etc., everything will disappear. So I don't know whether we'll exercise that option or not, but it's a sort of Damocles that hangs over these fools. And finally, I think, ma'am, if the situation becomes all I can say is I wish them well. I have many friends there. You've been through very difficult times. You have no food, you have no energy, inflation is through the roof, etc. Your growth is collapsing. But we wish you well. India wishes you well. And if you feel that you have to take back your future, well, then do whatever you think is right for you. We're not going to intervene or interfere with one side or the other.
So we are not going to intervene over here, Mr. Vora, but we cannot deny the fact that Sheikh Hasina chose India to seek help. It is not a political asylum that we are looking at as far as Sheikh Hasina is concerned, but the fact remains that India did provide that platform. India did decide to stand with Sheikh Hasina, knowing well what the consequences in the near future could possibly be. If there is an unrest, can a ripple effect be here in India as well, especially in the bordering area? Is there a need for India to worry for anything, is my larger question.
No, ma'am, not at all. This buffoon keeps talking about northeastern India, etc., that they are landlocked. I say Bangladesh is India-locked, except for that brief border with Myanmar. He doesn't have any place to go. He's surrounded by India on all sides. If we decide to clobber him, we will. Our army is a zillion times more powerful than theirs. So giving Sheikh Hasina asylum, she wanted it, she came. It's not our business to boot out people who come looking for asylum in India. There are others from Afghanistan also. I won't take any names now because my father's family was from Ghazni in Afghanistan. I know many of these people. Some are still here, some people who left when the Taliban took over. It's our system. We give refuge, etc. Now, what impact will it have on India? Nothing, ma'am. Nothing to worry about, except that it makes good media headlines. Oh, Bangladesh mein ye ho jayega, wo ho jayega. No, nothing is going to happen. Their army chief has been very careful. He hasn't said anything so far, except he issued a statement. I think it was at the end of the last year when he had said that there is trouble brewing and, we have to watch this very carefully and please don't work for the destruction of Bangladesh. He had told his people, some kind of statement he made. So my own feeling is, ma'am, that we should be concerned, but there should be no panic. We know how to deal with these people, ma'am.
Very interesting, Mr. Vora. You mentioned about the Ganga Water Treaty renewal that is now pending for next year. Are we expecting things to stabilize in Bangladesh by then? We do not know. But having said that, you've mentioned about Awami League also saying that they have taken up this time, this moment to try and rearm themselves and regroup. Will they be able to take it in their stride and bounce back? How are they going to recover from this major setback? Because today's verdict also went on to say that all the properties of the close ties and associates of Sheikh Hasina should be confiscated. So it doesn't leave any room for Awami League to try and expand and have an elbow room to organize themselves as far as a revolution or another unrest is concerned.
May I say something, ma'am? You'll forgive the very street level simile. A cornered dog stops barking, it starts biting. So if you leave them no option for political expression, then they'll take to the streets. And that is not going to be good for anybody, ma'am. I can see that happening. You're seeing these pictures. And if that does happen, they take on the police, they beat up the police, the military has to come out. Well, then there's going to be serious, severe trouble. It's going to set back Bangladesh by at least a decade, ma'am. Whether she comes or not, whether she returns, I'm not able to predict. It's not my dhanda to sort of make predictions about the future. But I can see that Bangladesh is in for a period of instability, and its best friend, the one country that it can look to for guidance, for hope, is Bharat, not China, and not that jihadistan on our western border, ma'am.
Okay. On our screens, ladies and gentlemen, we are playing out these live visuals from the India-Bangladesh border that we are getting from our sources right now. But I'm going to take a leaf from what Mr. Vora was saying over here and go across to you, Mr. Bhawmik. You've heard what Mr. Vora was saying, that it appears that Awami League will eventually bounce back. Given this verdict, they do have a chance of making an appeal in the higher court for within 30 days. That is all technical in nature, the legal procedure, etc. But as far as the economy of the country is concerned, that takes a huge beating. And of course, internationally, we are being watched. Bangladesh is being watched. What is happening? How is in the international community at a global diaspora is going to be looking at the developments taking place in Bangladesh, no matter who is rendering support to fuel the tension in Bangladesh, whether it is Pakistan or China. But Bangladesh development is being watched, Mr. Bhawmik.
No, of course it's being watched, and I can tell you that Awami League, as Voraji rightly said, I am in agreement with whatever he said. You know, that Awami League has nothing to lose now. They know that when Sheikh Hasina can be hanged, or at least the verdict has been pronounced, and their property is on the line, they will have to fight back. They don't have a choice. And fight they will, and if they fight, you see, you have to understand, you know, that Pakistan, you can see Baloch and this Khyber Pakhtunkhwa disturbances. An army cannot handle it. Pakistan army is finding it terribly difficult. They're blaming India and all that. But here we are not talking of a marginal group active in one particular province. Awami League is a national party. It's the party that brought independence to the country. They organized, they ran the liberation war. The point here that Awami League still has a 40% popular vote. And Awami League has a massive, no party, certainly not Jamaat, has the kind of organizational spread that Awami League has. In Bangladesh, very often it is your street power that counts. And if the police and the army were to move off and not get involved in direct crackdown or repression, I can put my head and bet that Jamaat and all these guys that you are seeing on your screen will vanish from the streets of Bangladesh in the next 48 hours.
To wait and see if at all that is going to happen, Mr. Bhawmik. I have paucity of time. I want final words from Ambassador Vora. How is today's verdict going to impact the other autonomous, institutions, democratic institutions in Bangladesh and the judiciary, especially, Mr. Vora? How do you look at that? Can we expect justice?
No, not with the present government. This tribunal is packed with their clowns, with their chamchas. They are not going to give you justice. But ma'am, there is a thing, you're too young, but when I was in college, I'm 74 years, we used to read about revolution and counter-revolution. There was a revolution in Bangladesh, there's no question when Sheikh Hasina was ousted. Now it's time for a counter-revolution. and then you will see what happened, because they are not going to give up the Awami League. They are people responsible for the liberation of Bangladesh. The Pakistanis hate them. This joker, Yunus Khan, also hates them. I don't know whether they hate him or not, but they are going to assert themselves. Ma'am, in a country like Bangladesh or in India or anywhere else, and even 1,000 or 2,000 people take to the streets, it'll become very, very difficult to control them.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Mr. Subir Bhaumik, and Ambassador Deepak Vora, who is saying that when it hits the hilt, it's time for a counter-revolution. We here at News 9 are going to keep you ahead on all the developments taking place in Bangladesh, all the updates from ground zero. Stay tuned and don't go anywhere. We're slipping into a short break right now. Lots more lined up. Stay tuned.
$25 लाख का हॉस्पिटल बिल है, इतने पैसे कहाँ से आएंगे?
पैसों की चिंता आप मत कीजिए पापा।
मैम, सर का हेल्थ इंश्योरेंस क्लेम अप्रूव हो गया है।
आप
पॉलिसी बाजार।
हेल्थ इंश्योरेंस क्लेम में हमेशा आपके साथ पॉलिसी बाजार। 1 करोड़ का हेल्थ इंश्योरेंस सिर्फ 550 रुपए महीने से शुरू।
पढ़ता है, खेलता है, झूलता उछलता है, दौड़ता कभी कभी दौड़ कराता है, आगे आगे बढ़ता है इंडिया, अमूल दूध पीता है इंडिया।
जी, आपने भारत कनेक्ट का नाम सुना है?
शादी वादी करावे क्या?
शादी नहीं, 5 लाख एजेंट्स की मदद से बिल पेमेंट्स पॉसिबल बनाते हैं।
ओ,
जैसे अभी किया।
शाबाश।
आप हमें जानते नहीं पर मानते जरूर हैं। हम हैं भारत कनेक्ट।
पेंटिंग में पहली बार बिरला ओपस एश्योरेंस। 1 साल में पेंट को कुछ भी हुआ तो पेंटिंग वापस करके देंगे। रजिस्टर करो birlaopus.com पर।
This is India's #1 news network, and you're watching News 9, English news as it should be.
Now, more news from the US. A major US military operation has now targeted a narco-terror network operating in the international waters. Now, the US Southern Command reports that a vessel, which is linked to a designated terrorist organization, was struck in a lethal kinetic strike on November 15. This order came directly from the US Secretary of War, Pete Hegseth. Intelligence teams have also confirmed that the vessel was carrying narcotics along a known trafficking route in the Eastern Pacific. Visuals of that strike on your screen right now, in fact. Now, during the strike, 3 male narco-terrorists aboard the vessel were killed. The Southern Command says the operation was part of a broader effort to disrupt terror-linked drug movements happening across international waters, adding that the vessel was actively engaged in illicit smuggling at the time it was hit. Some more news from the US. President Donald Trump on Friday rolled back tariffs on more than 200 food products. This included staples such as coffee, beef, bananas, and orange juice. And this comes as the anger among American consumers is now growing about the high cost of groceries. This report gets you more details.
U.S. President Donald Trump has rolled back tariffs on more than 200 food products in the face of growing angst among American consumers about the high cost of groceries. The new exemptions were announced on Friday and include such staples as coffee, beef, bananas, and orange juice. They took effect retroactively at midnight on Thursday. The move marks a sharp reversal for Trump, who has long insisted that the sweeping import duties he imposed earlier this year
मेरी नई सीलिंग अच्छी लगी?
वाओ। तो पारिक को भी बता दे।
जिप रॉक सीलिंग है, सेंट गोबिन की।
पड़ोसी जलेंगे तो बता दीजिएगा। ब्यूटीफुल सीलिंग बनवाना है तो जिप।
tariff policies. Democrats have won a string of recent victories in state and local elections in Virginia, New Jersey, and New York City, where growing voter concerns about affordability, including high food prices, were a key topic.
And now, caught between US tariffs and a slowdown in key export market China, Swiss precision machinery maker KR Pfiffner is now set to lay off 80 out of its 105 staff. More details in this report.
Swiss precision machinery maker KR Pfiffner is set to lay off more than 75% of its workforce as it reels from US tariffs and a struggling auto industry. The firm makes million-dollar machinery used by car makers including Mercedes-Benz and suppliers like Robert Bosch. But it's now at the sharp end of a tough European car market that has been buffeted by US President Donald Trump's trade tariffs and a slowdown in key export market China. Switzerland has been grappling with 39% US tariffs, which dealt a hammer blow for the firm. CEO Andreas Ewald said the company's products became 50% more expensive for US customers.
We have to lay off a large amount of staff here. We will not shut down operation or the factory completely. We'll keep a team that is working on a next generation machine that we've been working on since 1.5 years now. That was our reaction to all these changes in the market.
Part of Taiwanese-owned FFG, Pfiffner was already suffering before Trump announced the tariffs in August, which dashed the firm's US orders. Logistics worker Norbert Steuer has been with the company for over 3 decades. He's one of 80 out of 105 staff due to be let go and says the news hit like a bomb. Pfiffner's struggles give an insight into the challenges facing firms down Europe's industrial supply chain and beyond. Consultancy company EY says in the year through June, German industrial companies shed over 114,000 jobs. That's more than 4 times the amount in the previous 12 months.
And now a large fire erupted at a decommissioned power plant in Texas on Sunday. Firefighters from various nearby towns worked through the morning to get the fire under control. No information on the cause of the fire was immediately available, but fortunately, no injuries have been reported so far. Now, large, thick black plumes of smoke drifted in the area, forcing local officials to issue a safety alert to the nearby residents. Officials later also said that the air quality monitoring was deemed safe at the moment. Visuals on your screen showing you the scale and the intensity of the massive fire that erupted at the decommissioned power plant in Texas. And now on to Mexico. Thousands have protested across the country on Saturday under the banner of Generation Z. They denounced the rising violence after the publicly killing of an anti-crime mayor earlier this month. Here are more details in this report.
Mexico's President Claudia Sheinbaum condemned the violence that broke out at a protest march in Mexico City on Saturday, telling a crowd there is, quote, never a need to use violence for change. Thousands protested across Mexico on Saturday under the banner of Generation Z, denouncing rising violence after the public killing of an anti-crime mayor earlier this month. In Mexico City, a group of protesters tore down fences around the National Palace where Sheinbaum lives, prompting a clash with riot police who deployed tear gas, according to Reuters witnesses. Mexico City's Public Safety Secretary Pablo Vasquez said 100 police officers were injured, including 40 who required hospital treatment. Another 20 civilians were injured, Vasquez told a local media outlet. The Public Safety Secretary also said 20 people were arrested and another 20, quote, referred for administrative offenses. Other marches took place in various cities across Mexico, including in the western state of Michoacan, where anger has flared over the murder on November 1st of Uruapan Mayor Carlos Manzo, who was shot dead at a public Day of the Dead event. A group calling itself Generation Z Mexico that called for the protest has said in a manifesto circulating on social media that it is nonpartisan and represents Mexican youth that are fed up with violence, corruption, and abuse of power. Sheinbaum's government has questioned the motives behind the marches, saying they were organized in large part by right-leaning political opponents and promoted by bots on social media.
And now on to Middle East. Construction work of a concrete wall continued on the Israeli side of the southern border with Lebanon. And this came despite the Lebanese presidency's threat to complain to the UN Security Council over the wall's extension into the Lebanese territory. More details in this report.
Workers continued to build a concrete wall on Sunday along Israel's side of the border with Lebanon, a day after the Lebanese presidency said the country will complain to the United Nations Security Council over the wall. It extends beyond the UN-mapped blue line, which separates Lebanon from Israel and the Israeli-occupied Golan Heights, according to the presidency. An Israeli military spokesperson on Friday denied that the wall crossed the blue line, but a spokesperson for the UN Secretary-General said the wall has made almost an acre of Lebanese territory inaccessible to the local population.
We underscore that the Israeli presence and construction on Lebanese territory is a violation of Security Council Resolution 1701, as well, obviously, of Lebanon's sovereignty and territorial integrity.
Adding to the tensions, Israeli forces opened fire on United Nations peacekeepers in southern Lebanon on Sunday, in an incident the UN peacekeeping mission described as a serious violation. None of the UN forces were reported wounded. Israeli soldiers had opened fire on 2 suspects in the El Hamamez area near the Israeli border, only later realizing that they were UN peacekeepers, the military said in a statement. The military said the peacekeepers were misidentified due to poor weather conditions, adding that the incident was under review.
And now more developments from Middle East. Iran has made a major declaration. The foreign minister of the country, Abbas Araghchi, says Tehran is no longer enriching uranium at any site in the country. Now, this is the most direct admission yet from Iran after Israeli and US airstrikes crippled its nuclear facilities during the June's 12-day war. Now, Araghchi here insisted that there are no secrets or undeclared sites in the country, and that all nuclear facilities remain under international safeguards and monitoring at this point of time. He also added that enrichment has stopped simply because the facilities have been attacked. But here Iran is also sending a message. It has not given up its right to enrich uranium. Araghchi said that Iran will resume peaceful enrichment if it gets rights and if those rights are respected. Meanwhile, it also accused Washington of making maximalistic demands that leave no room for fair negotiations. Now, satellite images also show that no major activity has taken place at the bomb sites in Fordo, Natanz and Isfahan, even as Iran claims it is being threatened with fresh strikes if it attempts repairs at these sites. Now, viewers, before the attacks, Iran had been enriching up to 60% purity, just a short step from weapons-grade levels. In fact, a process which accelerated after US left the 2015 nuclear deal in 2018. Now, the IAEA Board of Governors meets this week and they could pass a new resolution against Iran. Europe has already pushed to reimpose the UN sanctions over Tehran's lack of cooperation when it comes to uranium enrichment. Inside Iran, officials used a major conference to condemn the aggression by Israel and the West, even as the country now faces weakened air defenses, rising economic pressures and social tensions at home. And now on to Russia-Ukraine war. The Russia Defense Ministry said on Sunday its forces had moved forward sharply in Ukraine's southeastern Zaporizhia, taking about 2 settlements as part of a major push which aims at taking control of the entire region. Now, in the drone video which has been released by the ministry, you can see soldiers holding Russian national flags and battalions near the village of Renopelia. Now, the ministry also said its forces had captured the settlement of Mala Tokmachka, which puts the southern towns in danger of being the target of Russian pincer movements. Now, there was no immediate comment from Ukraine as of now on how these movements have led to the weakened position, but we'll have to see how Kyiv now reacts. More from US now, President Donald Trump said that Republicans are working on legislations that will impose sanctions on any country that does business with Russia. He said Iran may also get added to this list now. Remember, the bill would slap tariffs on countries that buy Russian oil and gas and impose sanctions on international firms that do business with Russia's energy sector. Let's take a listen.
Well, I hear they're doing that, and that's okay with me. They're passing legislation, or the Republicans are putting in legislation.
पेरेंट की ड्यूटी मतलब पीठ की ड्यूटी। ये कार, ये डायनासोर हमारी पीठ से कितनी मेहनत करवाते हैं यार। इसलिए हम जैसे पेरेंट्स के लिए है नीलकमल स्लीप हेल्थ प्रो मैट्रेसेस विद ऑर्थोपेडिक सपोर्ट। इसकी 5 जोन स्मार्ट प्रोफाइल फोम दे कंप्लीट बॉडी अलाइनमेंट और कल के लिए रेडी करें। नीलकमल स्लीप थॉटफुली।
नहीं, इंजरी नहीं, ये जोड़ी सही नहीं है। ये हुई ना परफेक्ट जोड़ी, जैसे बिरला व्हाइट पुट्टी और ओनली बिरला व्हाइट प्राइमर की जोड़ी। पुट्टी और प्राइमर व्हाइटेस्ट तो दीवारें।
On asylum seekers in modern times. This is the latest we're getting from the Interior Minister Shabana Mahmood. Let's listen in.
What the new reforms will do is change that generations-old assumption that sanctuary provided to refugees can very quickly lead to permanent settlement and all of the rights that go alongside that. We will be changing that to a more temporary process, and the situation will be assessed every 2.5 years. So if your country becomes safe in that intervening period and you are remaining on this essentially core protection model, you will be returned to your country, because we see countries that have started off in conflict and people have moved in order to escape that conflict becoming safe. So I think that is right.
And
but the whole of the proposals that I will set out tomorrow will also provide new routes for people to be able to work in this country. And if you are working and contributing, you will be able to earn an earlier settlement in this country.
And now some unfortunate news coming to light from Congo. At least 80 people were killed at a semi-industrial copper mine in southeastern part of the country. This happened on Saturday after a bridge collapsed with other trapped miners heard screaming for help. Now, this incident occurred at Kalando mining site in Lualaba province. An agency official told Reuters that several miners, in fact, had been taken to hospital in a critical condition as a result of this incident. Now, we are given to understand that at this point, the rescue ops are still on to find those who are still trapped. Now, floodwaters gushed through a town in southern Wales after Storm Claudia hit the country. Eyewitnesses video captured floodwaters gushing through shop doors and submerging vehicles on Lower High Street after the nearby river Munau passed its banks. Getting you visuals of that devastating floods that have in fact now taken over streets in southern Wales.
Whether it went over the top or whether they collapsed.
And now Japan's Sakurajima volcano erupted, sending a plume of smoke and ash 2.7 miles into the air. The volcano, which is called Sakurajima and is located on the southern tip of Kaishu near the city of Kagoshima. It is the first eruption reaching 4 kilometers or higher in almost 13 months now. Local media also reported 30 flights in and out of Kagoshima airport were cancelled because of the ashfall and related reasons. Now viewers, this volcano is Japan's most active volcanoes, and eruptions of varying levels have been taking place on regular basis. Back in the year 2019, it in fact spewed ash as high as 3.4 miles, which translates to about 5.5 kilometers. And now President Donald Trump's second term has dramatically reshaped America's climate policy. Ever since he returned to the White House in the January of this year, Donald Trump has reversed several environmental measures which were taken by former President Joe Biden. So here's a report on how the politics around climate issues is now shaping up in the United States.
At this year's COP30 summit in Brazil, world leaders gathered to brainstorm strategies for tackling climate change. But one influential seat in the room was left empty: the United States, the world's biggest economy and largest historical CO2 emitter. So why didn't President Donald Trump send anyone? And why is it significant?
We will drill, baby, drill.
Trump's return to the White House in January 2025 triggered a sweeping rollback of U.S. climate policy. He submitted the country's withdrawal from the 2015 Paris Agreement for a second time.
Climate change.
And he doubled down on his skepticism at the UN General Assembly in September by calling climate change
the greatest con job ever.
The Inflation Reduction Act.
The administration has dismantled key provisions of the 2022 Inflation Reduction Act, halting billions in clean energy tax credits and loans. The Big Beautiful Bill Act curtailed deadlines for wind and solar projects, raising costs and threatening cancellations. And nearly $8 billion in climate-related funding targeting 16 states, including California and New York, are being canceled.
I call it liquid gold under our feet.
Trump revived his energy dominance agenda by